Welcome back, Internet Travelers. We're going to be doing something a little different to break up the monotonous schedule of weekly uploads. So, surprising you with this one, doing a Star Wars movie tier list. Let's go ahead and put this in presentation mode. So, we got our six tiers and our 12 movies. We're going to be ranking all 12, even the spin-offs and the Clone Wars movie and newer ones as well. Got six tiers. I'm gonna go through all these. F tier, poo poo stinky, basically just the bottom of the barrel. Boo boo, D tier. These are gonna be movies I thought were like pretty disappointing, kind of bad. Maybe have some redeeming qualities. Enough to put it out of the poo poo stinky tier. So I don't know why that says an R right there. Go and delete that. But C tier, we got MIDI, which means mid, just average or just kind of movies I don't have that strong of an opinion on. Good, it's good, not top tier, but it was a solid watch. I was entertained by it. And we got great tier. These are the movies that are great, just shy of this tier, but still just a great movie. And then obviously S tier, we got the GOAT tier. These are the best of the best. Now, just before anybody comments anything, this is personal preference. My cat is making some noise. I do have a blue mouth from eating some blue Italian ice. But yeah, it's mostly personal preference. I will go into detail, kind of like what my first reaction was watching some of these movies, and also just give you my overall thoughts on these movies. I would try to be, as like personal opinion as I can on these, just fresh takes. I watch these movies pretty regularly, some more than others, as my cat destroys stuff. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I will preface this. I'm going to start going from worst to best because I would rather end the video on a high note rather than start high and just get angry as I go on. So we're going to do worst to best. And starting off, the only movie that I will put in this poo poo stinky tier, and it's only one choice. And if you think it's any other movie than the one I'm about to select, you obviously don't know me pretty well, but that movie is none other than The Rise of Skywalker. It is the worst Star Wars movie I've ever seen. And what's funny is, like, I went to the theaters with my families to see it. If I went by myself, I would have walked out of this movie. I would have walked out when I heard the line, "You're his granddaughter." That was the line where I was like, okay, yeah, this movie is complete bonkers and not in a good way. Oh my gosh. I don't know like what they were thinking with this movie. Like, I'm gonna go through what I don't like about it. I will go through some of the positives. It's a short list, but starting off with the negatives, Palpatine is just back, and we know this in the opening crawl of the movie. And what's funny is he didn't even have to come back. I know Snoke died. Okay, this is spoilers. There are going to be spoilers here, but Snoke died in The Last Jedi, and they're like, oh no, we don't have a main villain anymore. So let's just bring back Palpatine. They didn't have to bring him back because you know why? The only hint of what we can figure out about how Palpatine came back is Sith cloning. That's it. That's the only thing the movie hints us with is Sith cloning. Well, if that's the case, then why didn't you just bring back Snoke? You already introduced Sith cloning. I mean, yeah, it's still stupid. I think the movie would have been made fun of for it anyway, but you could have brought back Snoke. Why didn't you bring back Snoke? Like, in The Last Jedi, like, they say that people can track ships through light speed. like I that was maybe a little stupid, not well explained, but like I mean, Civ cloning would be about the same caliber. But anyways, like Ray being Palpatine's granddaughter is stupid. I mean, who would want to get into bed with Palpatine? And I know some people are probably going to be like, "Oh, like he created life and made a son out of that way, like Ray's dad or whatever." But I don't know. I just think it's stupid. She went from being a nobody to being Palpatine's granddaughter, and I just think is really dumb. And like just the overall of this movie, I mean, I will say a positive. I do like that we have a trio of like Finn, Ray, and Poe. That was nice to see. I wish that was like that for the whole trilogy, to be honest. It would have been nice. And the performances aren't horrible, but they just feel off. Like all the characters talk so fast and the events happen so fast in this movie. They just dart around different plants and locations. Like I couldn't even really give you the names of all the locations. Like there's Kajimi, there's Exegol, and the only reason like even remember those is because they said it like at least 10 times in the movie. But yeah, and the final battle, like on its own, like taking the story out of it, it's okay, but I don't know. And I really wish that Rey had died in this movie and not Kylo Ren. But I think the reason why Rey didn't die is because they didn't want it to be too similar to Endgame. Because Endgame came out the same year. And they even kind of do like the I am Iron Man thing where Rey's like, I am all the Jedi. And then she kills Palpatine and like she saves the day. And that's what I think about this movie. And yeah, Kylo Ren dies. He becomes a Force ghost. And he doesn't even show up at the end. Like the ending is like by far the worst part of this movie. I was hoping the ending would have won me over, but it did not. I let the theater just wanting to facepalm, wanting to just like completely like get my mind erased. It was that bad. It was so yeah, and then she also says Ray Skywalker, t- like takes a name that isn't hers. It would have been cooler if she said Ray Palpatine because I mean, yeah, Palpatine was a bad guy, but she could have turned the Palpatine name into something good. It's awful. Like I just the it doesn't look that impressive, and I don't know, and like and I'm gonna be honest, like there are people that are gonna say, "Oh, the Last Jedi is the reason why this movie was bad," or like cut some slack because the Last Jedi was so bad. They wrote themselves into a corner. No, they didn't. There is no such thing as writing yourself into a corner. Like, yeah, I know JJ probably like didn't like the story Ryan Johnson came up with, but if he was creative enough, and yeah, I know the movie was rushed and they probably had to meet deadlines and all that, but that shouldn't excuse a movie from being bad. So yeah, like there's just a complete lack of creativity in this movie, and I just can never forgive this movie for existing. And we're not even getting another Star Wars movie until May of this year. It was like 7 years after this movie. I know there was a gap of time between trilogies and all that, but they didn't even want to do like spin-off movies for a while after this. We're just now going to get one in May 2026, and there's just not much hype for this movie. I mean, there may have been some hype from the trailer that came out like a couple days ago, or I guess maybe like 5 days ago by the time we're recording this. But yeah, this is the only movie I'm putting in this tier. Just had to get that rant out of the way. The rest of these movies aren't even nearly as bad compared to this. And next up on the list, going into D tier, I hate to do this, but it's gonna have to be Force Awakens. Now, if you asked me before I saw this movie, or even like, these two movies down here, like I wouldn't have put it this low. I probably would have put it like, probably like somewhere in B tier, but I think the rise of Skywalker and like Last Jedi existing, I think just kind of make this movie feel pointless. And also just the fact that it's basically just like a remake of A New Hope just never sat right with me because I think we all gave this a pass because we're like, oh, they're going to set up way more in the next two movies. Like the next two movies, like, you know, like they had to get the ball rolling because they wanted to play it safe. And I understand that. But the next two movies just kind of like complete like the next two movies being what they were, being just completely just Disney being like, we don't know what we're doing, we're just gonna wing it. It made this movie feel lazy, like completely lazy. Because why make a remake of A New Hope? If you didn't know what you were gonna do in the future, like if you didn't have like great plans for the future of this trilogy, why would you make this movie the way it was? Like it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And like I guess another negative, I will go into pauses after this, but another negative I have is the factions. It's basically just rebels and an empire again, but with new names. Like the same people, pretty much, at least in the on the resistance, like existed in the original trilogy, like Leia and Captain Akbar's still there too. But yeah, I just never like understood why they just took the easy way out with this movie when they didn't even know what they were going to play in the future. But as far as the pauses go, I do like the way the movie looks. I like the mixing of CGI and practical effects. Some people are like, prequels are a little too much CGI, and the practical effects of like the OT were a little, outdated. So it was a nice, like visually impressive movie. And even the characters they introduced. I mean, Ray, I don't think she deserved a lot of the hate like in this movie. I think in other movies, I feel like she's just kind of the way the plot needs her to be. But I feel like in this movie, she's okay. Finn, I also liked. His arc in this movie I thought was really nice. And Kylo Ren was a cool character when he was revealed. BB-8 is so whatever though, and like Poe Dameron, he's in like maybe 10, 15 minutes of the movie. I mean, he was fine too. I wish they've developed him more. But yeah, I mean, I do remember going to the theaters to see this, and it was a nice time. I kind of hate putting this movie that low for that. But I remember, like, when I went to the theater, we actually sat in the handicapped row because the rest of the seats were taken, and nobody made us leave. I mean, we probably had to give our seats up if, somebody needed them, but nobody needed them, and we sat in the handicapped row when we saw this movie. That's how packed it was. Like, if the movie theater staff is directing people to their seats, like, it's a busy time. A lot of people are trying to see this movie. So yeah, that's kind of why I have it there. It's not even I don't even think it's that bad, but in just the grand scale of things, like among all the other Star Wars movies, I just found myself not really wanting to watch it too much. And next in this same tier, I mean, I hate to throw all the trilogy down at the bottom, but it's gonna be Last Jedi. I've gone kind of back and forth how I feel. I did actually like it the first time I saw it. Upon some more rewatches, I started noticing a lot of problems with it. Um, my problems aren't necessarily the same as everyone else's. I know a lot of the main reason people don't like this movie is because of Luke and what his character arc was, and they didn't like that he basically was just like a hermit on an island and avoided the fight, and he wasn't being brave like he was in the old trilogy. I don't even think that was necessarily the problem. It's the main problem with this movie is we just weren't shown anything in this movie. And that's another negative with this movie. I think Luke just being completely absent from this movie until the last like 5 minutes. was not a very good idea. Like I think he should have been a major part of this movie. And I think that's why Last Jedi kind of suffered because again they changed directors for this movie, and I think that was the main thing that kind of sunk this trilogy. The switching back and forth between directors, I think was. I mean, yeah, the original trilogy had this too, but they were all kind of under Lucas's vision. But there was just no vision for this trilogy. As far as the movie itself, I again like Force Awakens. I really like how this looks. This is probably the best looking movie of the not even just this trilogy, but like all of Star Wars. Like this movie looks great. But I think my problem with Luke is mostly like him attempting to kill Ben Solo. I feel like that was just not that well explained, and I really just think like I don't think Luke would do that. I think that's kind of stupid that they threw that in this movie. I know it was like I know he like immediately regretted it, but just the fact that like he was like, "Oh, he's evil," like, and my first instinct is to kill him or whatever. It's like I just think that was kind of weak and kind of stupid. Like I don't think Luke would do that. But one thing I do really like about Luke is the ending. Like I know some people thought the force projection with him was cowardly or whatever, but I just think that just his presence like is what saved everybody at the end of the movie. Like he didn't have to kill anybody. Like everybody was saved. Everybody could escape. Just him like, just the vision of him saved everybody, and that was cool. But my main issues with this movie are basically like everything else. I think all the other, if your name isn't Luke or Ray or Kylo Ren, you're basically a complete afterthought in this movie. The Canto Bight scene alone is mostly what puts it in this tier. Also, the stuff with Holdo, like her not wanting to be seen as a hero and protecting the light, I think was really just dumb for her actions. Like she allows a whole space mutiny to happen, and the hyperspeed thing. I know this has been clowned on too, and I do kind of agree. Like I think the hyperspace thing would have been fine if not like half the Starfleet was destroyed. Like if it was just the main ship and like maybe a couple of other ships in the path, that would have been fine. But like of the half of the First Order fleet was just completely gone from her doing the hyperspace ram. And like I was just like, bro, like if that's the case, like they could just send droid pilots into the enemy fleet and the battle would be over. Like everybody would just completely annihilate both the fleets if they did that. And it's so funny that Rise of Skywalker tried to correct this. They were like, that move was one in a million. But yeah. Yeah, those two things. Rose, hate her as much as other people, but she does just kind of exist, and the whole like anti-war like monologue thing she has with Finn, I thought was kind of dumb. Like Finn already kind of knows war is bad. I don't know why he needs another lecture. Speaking of Finn, it just kind of felt like they did his character arc again in The Force Awakens. They did it with this movie too. Like he starts off cowardly and then kind of ends up a hero, but I feel like they did it worse in this movie. But yeah, but the main reason why this is ranking above these other two, this is the only movie that tried something. Like, yeah, it may not have been good, but at least it tried something. It was able to do something instead of just introducing like planet killing weapons or like delivering a message to the resistance or to the rebels or whatever. Like, I like that it at least did something a little different. First movie going into the C tier is going to be the Clone Wars movie. I'm kind of shocked I'm ranking this above all three of these movies. But you know what's funny about this movie? This was actually the movie that got me into Star Wars. I can't believe, like, of all the movies, it was this. And I know some people would put this at the bottom. They think it's the worst Star Wars movie ever made. And in some cases, I kind of agree because this movie is basically just like the pilot to the Clone Wars show, just kind of like stretched out into a movie. I mean, it was like 4 episodes of an arc of season one that it just took out of the show, turn into a movie, and release it in theaters. And I know some people will say like the animation's bad. It is bad sometimes. Like my problem isn't necessarily the animation style or necessarily like the quality of the animation. At least that's finest, but the fact that it's like inconsistent. Like sometimes you go from like a good looking shot to a really bad looking shot, and it's just kind of a mess. And yeah, the plot of like rescuing Jabba the Hutt's son, and apparently he's coming back in the Mandalorian movie. So I've heard. I haven't really. I've watched all the trailers, but I just haven't really seen what people were saying about it. But there are a lot of pauses I think get overlooked in this movie. The first like 30 minutes of the movie, like when they're on Christophsis, like I think it's a great part of the movie. Like I think it sets up everything pretty well. It sets up Ahsoka pretty well. I mean, she is a little irritating in this movie, but that's kind of the point, you know. Like she's basically what like Anakin was to Obi-Wan, but Anakin is the one that has to teach Ahsoka. So I do kind of like it for that. And I think the reason why I like this above these other ones is like it's only like an hour and a half long, and it's pretty entertaining for the most part. I mean, I understand why this movie got blasted when it came out because it was after the prequels, and it had kind of a dicey reception. And then yeah, this movie comes out, and then Anakin gets an apprentice they didn't have in those movies, and then it's kind of just like this kiddie adventure about returning a kid. It's kind of like the Mandalorian before this concept was, I guess, realized. So yeah, it's probably like a C minus. I mean, you could argue D tier or even F tier. I might move it to D, but I do actually enjoy it sometimes, and I'm glad Clone Wars season 7 acknowledges that this movie existed. Like they didn't just completely forget about it. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as bad as people say because there are pauses. I mean, Matt Lanner's Anakin, I thought was actually like pretty good, and the voice actors, like a lot of the voice actors returned from like the 2003 Clone Wars series, like James Earl Taylor, Corey Burton. Actually no, Christopher Lee was in this. Yeah, yeah, Christopher Lee and Samuel Jackson were in this movie. I guess because it was a movie, they decided to come voice the characters, which is weird that not everybody did. But yeah, yeah, even like the Teth battle was pretty cool, like going up that cliff. That too. But I mean, the main problem with this movie is like you can tell like it's kind of just a long TV episode, or at least a long like 4 different TV episodes just kind of spliced together. Like Padme plays an important role at the end of the movie where like she basically proves that the Jedi didn't kidnap Rada, like Jabba's son. But the thing is, like it's like the last 20-25 minutes of the movie, so you can tell like that was supposed to be like its whole episode. And then another movie in C tier, Solo. It was fine. I did go to the movies to see it. I didn't really expect much out of this movie, but it was an entertaining time. I don't think we really needed a Han Solo movie. I feel like Han Solo just kind of like we kind of knew enough about him in the OT to not really need a movie, but it was kind of cool to see. We see how Han and Chewie met, and we see like Han's old flame in this movie too. I think the main reason I don't put any higher, that L3 droid was so irritating, to say the least. Like, she just kept rambling about droid rights and Lando having a thing for her, and I was just like, eh, this is. It just kind of made me like a little uncomfortable. But yeah, yeah, I don't have much to say about Solo. It's there, If you're not fully into Star Wars, it's not a bad movie to just kind of have on in the background. And last movie I'll have in the C tier is going to be Attack of the Clones. Probably my least favorite of the prequels. This one is fine. I think the problem I have with Attack of the Clones, I think it's just the amount of stuff that got cut out of this movie. Like they cut out like a lot of stuff with like Count Dooku and like his time as a Jedi, and I really think like if we had that, like I think people would like Dooku more because I think Dooku's a pretty underrated character. Like, like just the fact that he wears like a vampire cape, I guess was kind of like I guess because he was in like the Dracula movie. I wonder if that's why he had like a whole vampire cape as part of his outfit. But yeah, I do think he's an underrated character, and like I think like the second half of this movie is pretty good. Like I think what a lot of people don't like about this movie is in the first half, and I'm kind of one of those people. The dialogue, I know people make fun of like the "I don't like Sam" thing. It's not even the words chosen. I think a lot of it is just like the direction and the acting and stuff. Because like the actors, I don't think are that bad. It's just there's not directed in like an engaging way, so the dialogue kind of sounds a little off. But yeah, this movie does focus on the romance between Anakin and Padme, and it does feel kind of forced in places. It's like at the end of the movie, they're like, "I truly, deeply love you," and like, "Let's get married," even though like our society won't let us be together, pretty much. So yeah, I mean, it's again, it's another movie that's kind of there, kind of like Solo, just kind of put it on in the background and tune in for the cool parts. Also, Jango Fett's in this, and also like the clones um, debut in this movie too, and both of those things are pretty cool. And next, another prequel film, and it's going to be our first B tier movie, Phantom Menace. Come around with Phantom Menace quite a bit. I know some people don't like it. People would probably throw it in probably one of these two tiers. I know a lot of people like they crap on like Jake Lloyd. I mean, for child actors, I've definitely seen worse. Like I've definitely seen worse in terms of child actors. But yeah, Qui Gon Jinn, honestly underrated character. I think he's kind of like what the Jedi should be, even though like he doesn't really follow the code or anything. The code is mostly like well, the code and just the hypocrisy around the code is what brought the Jedi down, in my opinion. But yeah, young Obi-Wan's in this, and he's there. The fight scenes I think are great, especially for the time and like the CGI for being a movie that came out in like 1999 still holds up really well even today. I mean, there's places where it's dated, but yeah, and I know a lot of people hate like the midichlorians and all that. I never really had a problem with it. In fact, I think it actually fixes a problem I had with the original trilogy. Like everybody in that movie, it seems like anybody can use the Force, but yeah, I don't think that's really what's gonna happen. Like I hate to quote Ratatouille, but it's like not anyone can use the Force, but the Force can come from anywhere. That would be how I would describe like midichlorians. Like the midichlorians is like the Force coming from somewhere. But yeah, and I do like it. I mean, it does get kind of slow in the middle of the movie, like on Tatooine. But like the politics, some people think like it's boring, and I definitely did as a kid. But like, it's kind of interesting just to see how messed up the Republic was. And I mean, honestly, both of these movies. And like Darth Maul was pretty cool, even though he only had like 3 lines of dialogue. Just the fact that he had like a double bladed lightsaber is pretty cool. I kind of hate the fact that like the Inquisitors basically had double blade lightsabers for everybody, and like the Inquisitors, that's a topic for another time. But yeah, that's where I think it should go. Next movie after in the B tier, just above it, I think Rogue One. Rogue One. I liked Rogue One over Force Awakens back when I saw both these movies in theaters. And like somebody told me something kind of funny. Like they said that like Jyn Erso was a better protagonist than Rey, and she was only in one movie. And in this movie, she dies at the end. Like all the characters die at the end. I know some people are like, "Oh, the characters are so forgettable," and kind of. I mean, I think their names are forgettable, but I don't really think the characters themselves are forgettable. I mean, the only character names I don't really know are like Chirrut and Baze. I don't really know their last names, but all the other characters I think are pretty good. Even those characters I do like for the most part. And I think kind of like, Attack of the Clones, this movie I feel like is carried more by its second half rather than its first half. The first half, they're kind of just going around the place, kind of like in Rise of Skywalker. They're kind of just going around different planets and locations and stuff. But it's like once like they actually get like the air attack going and like planned out and everything, like it actually becomes really good. The fan service does get a little much, like the deep fakes with Tarkin and Leia and all that was kind of weird. Like I kind of just wish they used like actual actors. I'm pretty sure Tarkin was in Revenge of the Sith. They could have used the actor for him, and I think he would have been old enough because they used a different actor for him, I believe. I don't know if he said no, but they could have just used the same actor that played in Revenge of the Sith. Like, yeah, he didn't have any lines in that movie. He was kind of just a background character, but they could have used him. I think it would have worked with his age and everything. But yeah, I mean the fight scenes I think are great, and it spawned a whole spin-off show. And I think this movie is kind of the reason why we're still getting spin-off shows and movies and all that. Topping off B tier, I've got a New Hope. New Hope is great. Maybe not great, but it's good. Again, like kind of the same theme. Got a first half that's kind of slow, but as soon as I get to the Death Star, I think the movie's like great. It could, I mean, it could be like in these top 2 tiers if the first half was as great as the second half. And yeah, and for a movie that came out in 1977, I mean, for what they could pull off, it still looks pretty good. And I've seen the theatrical version. Actually used to have it. I might still have it buried somewhere. That unfortunately was the only theatrical release that I've owned because they came out with these DVDs that had both the special edition and the theatrical release. I wish they still had stuff like that. I wish they would release it again because I think everybody should watch it. I mean, some special edition stuff isn't bad, but it would be nice if you could just pick out like the special edition changes you like and don't like. Like in the DVD menu, you'd be like, oh, Han shoots Greedo, and oh, we got Ian McDermott as Palpatine and all that. Yeah. Don't have a lot to say. Great movie. It's a good movie. Definitely a great starting point for anybody. Like I think original trilogy is probably what I would start people with. Going into the A tier, I've got Return of the Jedi. A lot of people, this is their favorites, and this one's definitely grown on me a little bit. The ending itself, like, yeah, I know, like the other parts of the movie, kind of varying quality, but the last third of this movie is the best last third of any of these Star Wars movies. That's primarily why it's going this high. Like the last third of this movie is like basically perfect. Like I know they're just going on their Death Star run, so it does kind of repeat a lot from New Hope, and maybe I would be a little like more lenient on Force Awakens if Return of the Jedi had like something else besides another Death Star. But yeah, any other negatives I have, like Han Solo, he's not the best in this movie. I feel like Harrison Ford was just kind of like not really putting in his all in this one. But like Luke is great in this movie, Leia's great in this movie. Like, after seeing, Empire going to Return of the Jedi, Vader is honestly like great because he feels kind of conflicted. Like he doesn't want to kill Luke. Like he wants to either join him or he's also trying to like resist the light side as well. And like Darth Vader's redemption at the end, like it's great. Really like it. Deserves the A tier. We got S tier. Next is Revenge of the Sith. This was actually the first movie I saw in theaters, first Star Wars movie, anyways. Um, Only thing I remembered was the Anakin and Obi-Wan fight, and I just remember sitting there and be like, "Oh, this would be so long. I want to go home." Like, yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know if I was like enjoying it that much, but honestly, like watching this movie, especially after watching like the Clone Wars show. I might do a tier list of like the Clone Wars and maybe like of all the shows, but I haven't seen all the shows, so I'm not sure if that'll happen, at least not for a while. But yeah, Revenge of the Sith, it's great. There's really not a dull part of this movie. I mean, maybe some parts in the middle, and I know some people still like make fun of the dialogue, but you know, they do meme on it a lot. But I don't really mind if a movie is like goofy. I mean, as long as it's not trying like at every opportune moment to be goofy like some Marvel movies. I feel like this movie is just kind of like, just kind of goofy by itself. It doesn't need to tell jokes all the time. But yeah, like all like the lightsaber battles, and there's a bunch in this movie. There's a bunch of lightsaber battles. They're all pretty great. And and I think like in terms of the prequels, this is always the movie people think about because like you basically could just have this movie exist as a prequel, and you would know like just about everything you need to know about what was it like before A New Hope. But yeah, honestly, great movie. I wouldn't even say underrated because I think a lot of people like have come around on this movie, especially. Some of it might be nostalgia, but I just like it. Number one's Empire. I know it's not really a contrarian take or whatever to say that Empire is the best, but this was the first OT movie I saw, so maybe I'm a little biased when it comes to that. But honestly, it's yeah, it's great. I just like how raw this movie feels. Like you really feel like the war between the rebels and Empire here, especially on Hoth, and the Empire seems like this big threat in this movie, which is nice because like you know in the first Star Wars movie, the Empire didn't like the only thing that was scary about the Empire was like the Death Star being able to blow up planets and just the Death Star size. But like almost every part of the Empire in this movie, feels threatening. I like the Empire to feel threatening, but not like comically evil, where like they just execute civilians for no reason, like in some shows or movies or whatever. It's just It's just a nice, well-rounded movie. Like all the characters are great. Like the movie never really feels that slow. Like maybe in the first act, leading up to the hot battle, maybe, but yeah, it's a great movie. I mean, the "I'm your father" thing, the whole like Yoda and Luke thing too. That's a nice movie. But yeah, that's my list. Just feel free to comment your list or make your own videos or do whatever you want to do. Tell me like where you agree, where you disagree. You know, if you think any of these movies are great, let me know. If any of these movies are not great, let me know. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I'm hoping to make more lists like this. I know tier lists aren't exactly the most original thing in the world, but it's a good way to just talk about things I like or don't like. You know. So I'll see y'all in the next video. Y'all stay safe.